Hey, what is going on, everybody? Familia de Pulso Sports. Today we have a very special guest. We got a special segment here today for Plataforma Latina, Pulso Sports, as well as our podcast that you'll be able to get immediately. If you just go down to our Twitter, Pulso Peru, we'll have this on their podcast as well because we wanted to get it out for all platforms. We're coming in today in full on English. It's going to be our first episode fully on English. My name is Nico Moreno, El Rover Noroeste. As you all know, just trying to give you guys the best exclusive, La Casa de la Exclusiva. That is our motto. That is what we try to do. And correspondingly to the fantastic, fabulous, legendary start of the season that Sounders have had, I thought it was necessary to bring in an icon, to bring in somebody who really knows the club, who's seen it, played for it, and now as a broadcaster is doing absolutely great. He just has to be the right guy to talk about this entire franchise and this fantastic start. So without further ado, let's go ahead and bring on Mr. Brad Evans that's going to be here with us, help us break down the season, help us break down what's going on. Brad, first of all, thanks for coming, man. Thanks for helping on, helping this Latin community get closer to the Sounders, man. How are you?
I love it, man. Hey, thank you for having me on. And I think you touched on it just now. It's all about community, right? And building that fan base, understanding that, hey, we have a really, really good soccer team in this city right now that's setting MLS records. And the more that we can inform, that's what I'm here to do.
Absolutely. And that's what we want to do. We want to get that information. We want to get the takes of those who, like you, a respected guy just on the field, off of it. Right now, I love to see you broadcasting because nobody to give you that perspective. And I've heard really good things from everybody. So I thought it was great to have you on, Brad. But before we get to that, because we will get to you, Brad, I want to start off with just a small portion, which is just breaking down this last Sounders game, a Houston win that, regardless of the adversity this team has gone to, regardless of the players that were out, they're able to continue to play well. They get a victory. Wasn't easy, but it was definitely a good statement. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, well, look, I think historically, Houston has been a team that when they come to Seattle, they really struggle. And, over my 9 years of playing here, anytime that I saw Houston on the schedule coming to Seattle, I knew that we were always going to win. There's something about that team that we get a victory at home. They had draws in their last 4 or 5 games, not a great string of results for them. And then they had 5 players missing due to international duty. So it's, as a player in Seattle, you're licking your chops for this game. It's one of those that you really look forward to. It's an open capacity stadium for the first time in well over a year. So you knew that the fans were going to come out and give you that boost. And the Sounders hadn't played extremely well in the past month, but to end this little run of 13 games against that Houston team with a fantastic result overall, I thought that the high quality nature of the game, it was fast, especially in that second half. The Sounders were just a little bit more clinical. And that's one that, as a fan watching that one from the stands, you kind of just sit back and say, okay, I think the boys have it tonight, and they put on a great show. And then a lot to talk about this record that they set the other night too.
Absolutely. Before we get to that, obviously, this team had struggled in some sense with wide players and this 3-man backline getting spread out. I thought it would be difficult to contain Fafa and Rodriguez. They did that fantastic. They made the adjustments because they suffered against Vancouver and they suffered against Colorado when they put Barrios out wide. What were your thoughts on this defensive line, this 3-man backline, as well as the wingbacks that did a fantastic job?
Yeah, well, I think, with this 3-5-2, it's really only about, 12, 13 games that they've been able to get under their belt. And to play a completely new formation in a professional team, especially, and at the highest level, is very difficult to master. But what they've been able to do is everyone's bought in, everyone's on board. And that oftentimes happens when you have a good string of results, right? When things are going well, you don't question the system. You don't question the players that are brought in. It's just a well-oiled machine. Now, the flip side of that, if this team had gone 0-4 in the first 4 games, I'm not sure you still see this team in a 3-5-2. And I think that game at Vancouver opened the eyes of our wingbacks. And they said, okay, Vancouver really was focused on switching the point of attack and getting behind, especially Sissoko. Now, I think if Nuhu's in that position, I think it's a different result against Vancouver and a different result against Colorado. But they both attacked us the same way, switching the point of attack. And in Major League Soccer, if you don't get within an inch or at least arm's length, you have enough high-quality players that can serve from wide areas. And that was shown against Vancouver, especially. Brad Smith, a little bit timid, sat off about 2-3 feet. Service comes in a wide area, and it ends up being a goal, right? Same thing in Colorado. Brad Smith shows Barrios inside. Yes, he's right foot dominant, but you always use the line in that position to almost be a second defender, right? You just have to be smarter. So you saw a different side of that when it came to the Sounders against Houston, really applying pressure to the ball, not allowing quality service. A couple times, yes, Houston is a decent attacking team, and they had a couple forays into our attacking third, but nothing that really endangered the Sounders and really was like, oh boy, we're in for it tonight. So sometimes something has to happen to change, right? A team can go undefeated until the last game of the season, and sometimes you need that loss heading into the playoffs to wake the guys up a little bit and say, okay, we're not perfect. We still have things to work on. And I think that those were highlighted against Vancouver and against Colorado. And I think the appropriate adjustments were made, especially at halftime against Houston the other night.
Love to hear that. I mean, from a guy that's played left back, center back, midfield, I mean, that's what I wanted to hear. Love it. You know, I'm so into this defense. Has been fantastic. I love to hear your point and take. Absolutely agree with everything you said. One other interesting and difference that I see in this Seattle team, aside from the formation, and look, correct me if I'm wrong, but I've never seen a better team here covering the team in transition and counterattack. Has that been a huge weapon for this team? I mean, it just seems like that to me.
Yeah, I mean, look, anytime you play in a 3-5-2, and my time at the Sounders, or actually any other MLS team that I've played for, never played in a 3-5-2 or 5-3-2, never played with the national team, 27 games, never played in a 3-5-2. So in saying that, am I too familiar with the formation? No, but as a youth player in the 90s, I grew up playing that position quite a bit. And I actually played center back on my club team in a 3-5-2. So it's not lost on me on what this formation can provide, right? It allows outside backs to get forward in their most advanced positions. And when you have a guy like Jimmy Madranda or Brad Smith or Alex Roldan, who are these quick players, you'll notice that, yes, they track back, but as soon as our center backs get the ball, their first look is always to our outside backs. If it's not, it goes into João Paulo, and then he's always thinking forward first. I think in years past, the Sounders have been a possession-oriented type team, and that was successful. But you often have to form your team, or in your workplace, right? You have to formulate your team, your workers, to get the best results out of them. And sometimes that requires making a giant shift. And for the Sounders going into now a 3-5-2, it's provided this attacking prowess and service that we haven't seen since 2012, 2013 with Mauro Rosales, and his service of the ball, right, was just so fantastic. And to add that weapon with now, in the past 3-4 games, good possession, I think it's something that the Sounders can build on.
Oh, I love it. Absolutely agree. That's the take from Brad Evans here with us. Brad, you mentioned this 13-game unbeaten streak. What does it mean for this team? I mean, does this put them they've always been one of the best franchises in MLS, but what does this mean? What does this 13 unbeaten mean for this franchise?
Yeah, look, I think there's a lot of talk about who is historically been the best MLS franchise. And the Galaxy get a lot of credit. They won numerous championships, and that's the hardest thing to win in Major League Soccer, is to win those championships. So hats off to them, obviously. But if you're talking about in the last decade plus, there's no question that it's been the Sounders as the most dominant MLS team, every single year making the playoffs. That's creeping up on an all-time sports North American franchise record, right? I think they're in the running in the top 5 or 6 for that record, which is incredible. We're talking hockey, football, basketball, right? All the major sports. And then you talk about the Open Cup runs of a few years ago. And then the last couple years with making the MLS final, and not only making the MLS final, but winning 2 cups. There's no question. And what Ziggy used to always tell us, and Schmetz would echo it in his talks also, is this club has always wanted to be a club of firsts, right? We want to be the first expansion team to go into DC and win an Open Cup away from home. Then we want to do it 2 years in a row. Then let's do it 3 years in a row. Oh, why not make it 4 years in a row, right, to win MLS or to win an Open Cup? And we wanted to go into stadium openings, New York Red Bull, and win those games. And if you're going to beat a team by 5 or 6 goals, then do it, right? And that has been the same. You want to go into Mexico and beat Monterrey. Let's be the first team to do that. That was a huge cap that a lot of us as players, and I don't know if fans really realize how momentous and how massive that game was for us as players and as a club, in gaining the respect, south of the border. That was huge for us.
Right.
And now all of a sudden, when you're a player at the beginning of the year, you sit down and as a club, you say, we want to win MLS Cup, then we want to win a supporter shield if we can't do that. We want to make the playoffs, and then we want to win an Open Cup. And everything else is kind of a bonus, right? If you win 20 games, 25 games, that's great. No one ever talks about breaking the record for unbeaten streak. It's kind of something that happens organically. And I think that it kind of crept up on the Sounders and said, oh, wait, tonight we can actually break the record and own it for ourselves. And there was no better setting than doing it at home against a team, like I said, that you historically beat at home. The first night that the crowd is available to be open, right? So you have actual fans sitting together screaming. It was a perfect setting to break that record. And now as a team, you go in the locker room, you say, okay, well, can we be the first ones to do 14 in a row? Can we be the first ones then to be 15, 16? Let's make this record unattainable for the next 20, 40, 50 years and really look back at the record books and say, wait, that was the team that I was a part of. And those are special moments as a club.
Absolutely, Brad. And look, it is my theory, because I've been talking a lot with fan bases in Atlanta, and they ask me, what is it that makes Seattle so consistent, so good? Because they got the checkbook, and they've been able to put down some money. You could say that about Inter Miami as well, and they're a mess, right, in Miami, right? So it is my theory that foundation of good management, not missing on DPs, and the ability to use the resources to the best of their abilities that makes them so good. So young youth development, TAM players, DP players that are going to work for the team, and tangibles that they're not going to come in here and just party or go to another franchise. I mean, that's been the consistency of this squad, right?
Yeah, for sure. I spoke to a former player a couple games ago, and they said the Sounders are a destination for players. And when you go to a destination, when I go on vacation for destination, am I there for a week? Yes, but I would love to be there forever, right? If I could sit on a beach and be in my paradise, I would do it forever. And to be honest, that's how players feel about coming to Seattle, is they see this as not as a springboard to another MLS club or to Europe or, a bigger club overseas. They see it as a true destination because it's a super club in Major League Soccer. And that says a lot about what the management was able to do from, 2009. I think the Seahawks were a big part of that early on in being able to really let the Sounders understand how a business works, and how to be successful for the long term. There's a lot to be said behind the scenes about, Chris Henderson and, Zig and Adrian and Schmetz early on, about the players they brought in and about the ethos of this club. Hanneman talked about it the other night on broadcast. Is he was here in the early 90s and nothing has changed. And now we're a Major League Soccer team that still has those same exact goals, the same exact aspirations. The fans have a certain expectation. And when you put your fans first, you put your players first, you're going to get good results. But in saying that, if you went to the Sounders training facility, you wouldn't be blown away. the crazy thing is that the Sounders have done it under the radar almost when it comes to facilities, resources down at Starfire. The stadium isn't our own soccer-specific stadium. So would I love to see it get to that point and have an insane facility and our own soccer-specific stadium? Could we even attract even bigger players and better players top to bottom? I think if we got to that point, then we're really talking about a club that can make a run at, a CONCACAF Champions League and really say, hey, we can compete and we've got the resources and now we've got the players, fan base, stadium to really make a run at that thing. I think we're getting close. But for right now, it's supreme dominance in Major League Soccer.
Hey, I love that. I honestly have never thought of that, Brad, and I love it. I mean, right now you got this beautiful, huge car with a huge motor, looks amazing. Can we just hook it up outside with some nice rims and some beautiful paint? I mean, man, it'd be great to have a facility like the VMAC where, you're by the lake. Not everybody's kind of, not that we don't love the fans next to the players, but that is very secluded. And, you got your own facilities to train, work out. Yeah, I'm with you. I think that should definitely be the next step for a franchise that just continues to get better and grow. So love that point. I'm going to keep that.
I think if you're a casual fan too, and, maybe there's a new fan, in the area, and you all of a sudden start showing photos of, hey, this is the facility where they train and this is where they play. And it's like, oh, wow. Oftentimes as fans, we want the newest, shiniest thing, right? And to gain the interest and to convert a fan from maybe they were a fan of a Central South American team or European team because they see soccer-specific stadiums there. They see great facilities, especially in Mexico and in Europe. You want to see that here because you don't want it to feel amateur at times. We know that the quality of play is not amateur, but sometimes, yes, you want the big shiny car with the rims and all that. And I think we'll get there, slowly but surely. And that'll be important to saying, hey, this is a real contender on our continent, but also on the world stage too.
Here's Brad Evans being absolutely candid with us. I love it. And look, I've heard it I've been covering the team for a while, and I've heard it more than once from players that have played in different leagues, different countries, and it's like, hey man, it's kind of weird that kids be just practicing the same place we do, and I get out of the gym and it's just the lady with her groceries going up the stairs. It's just something that they say, right? I mean, it just happens to come up. I love Starfire. I love that my kid is able to watch the practices during his games and stuff. But I do know that perception would be great to have for other purposes.
Yeah, for sure.
I totally agree with you.
Yeah, when you're recruiting players, you have to show them your facilities, right? And it still blows me away that a Ladero would come here, a Rui Diaz, even Obafemi, right? So it goes to show you that this club goes beyond the shiny rims and the fancy car. It's really about the culture of this club and the achievements on the field. Okay, number one, most important, can your team win, and do they do it on a regular basis? Yes, that's the thing that brings high quality players here. Do they play good soccer? Yes. Okay, I want to go there and help build something also. The things that come with that can come down the line. But my brain immediately goes to, well, what if we had this and what if we had that? You're kind of bit a little bit because the club has been so successful without having a world-class training facility, right? Or their own soccer-specific stadium. But that should never be the thought process behind this club. It needs to think bigger and broader. And that's one thing, like we said, hopefully in the near future, we hear rumblings of at least.
Yeah, and there's no room for complacency. So I love it. Let's make the team even better. You already have this great foundation. Let's make it better. So I love that. That's going to be a great point of this interview, Brad. I appreciate it. Now, just to get back and just kind of finish on this season in general, if you could give me 3 standout players, just 3, which is hard, because there's been some rotating players and everything, who would that be? Who would those 3 outstanding players for the Sounders be?
Yeah, for me, I think without Yamar in the back line, I think you see a significant number of higher quality chances from the other team, especially against now that Steph Cleveland is back there. I think if there are more high quality chances in the game, I think Steph probably leaks a couple goals. I think his presence back there, his one-on-one defending ability, his aerial clearances, he's just a fantastic player. João Paulo anchoring as a number 6, kind of a number 8 at times. He has been influential, to say the least. Last year he was really good, but this year he's been lights out, fantastic. He has lately that hunting mentality of an Ozzy Alonso, where yes, you're supposed to be in the middle of the field, Ozzy, but sometimes you look up and he's in the attacking half making a tackle in the corner. And you just love to see that stuff. And if you can do it and have the engine to do it, do it. And then attacking wise, I mean, Raul's been unbelievable this year again. Joint top goal scorer in the league. I don't know how he does it. It's really his uncanny ability to be in the right spot at the right time. And anytime you watch him play, there's never a straight run towards goal. He's always zigzagging. He's always thinks that you're going to go near post, then he pulls back post. Sometimes he goes back to the near post. His poaching ability and to score inside the 6 is we've never seen it here before in Seattle, and we've had Oba's Clint's. His strike rate is almost double of those guys right now, and in terms of goals per game or goals per minute. Mm-hmm. It's out of this world. We're being spoiled right now with the quality of players, but those 3 guys. And you notice how they're right up the spine of the team, right? Of course. That really anchors this group. And then you sprinkle in, I mean, Christian's had a fantastic year, one that's been rewarded by a national team call-up, and I didn't even mention him. And it's crazy to not talk about Lodero, not talk about, obviously Jordan's out, and a couple key other injuries. But then those 3 guys up the spine have been fantastic.
Yeah, I mean, if you would have told me that without Stephen Fry, Jordan Morris, Nicolas Odero, this team was going to be 13-0, I told you you're crazy. Yeah. And they've been able to really do it. And a lot of that has to do with that anchor, that backline of players that have been amazing. Look, there's a lot of tools that Raul Diaz is not using right now, like his mid-range shot. I mean, he can beat you so many ways. So it's just fantastic to see it. And you've played with Clint, you've played with Oba. Raul is on pace to get to Freddie's 62. If he does that, is he the best striker that this franchise ever had?
Yeah. Just the way that he's done it and the rate and the pure numbers at how fast he's done what he's doing right now. And we'll see. Is he going to get to that number, and how many games is it going to take? But Obafemi and Clint were on a different planet. I haven't gotten to play with Raul, so I don't see him on a day in, day out. But talking with Chad Marshall, talking with even Will Bruin, right, a strike partner, it's like he sees a lot of similarities in Oba, and especially at training, in his killer instinct, his ability to close his hips on a goalkeeper without really showing it, and that's a sign of a true striker, and that's what Oba and Clint would do. But just the rate, the sheer numbers of how he's doing it is insane. You're talking about, Vela, Joseph Martinez, and Zlatan. I think that those are the only guys above him. And Zlatan's on a different planet when it comes to strike rate and goals per game. But Raul's up there, and Clint and Oba are not even close on that list. So we're talking about true attacking royalty right here in the history of Major League Soccer.
Yeah, I do too, man. And that's a great point. Oba does kind of do some resemblance, especially when it comes to scrimmages. They both take it so seriously. I mean, it could be practice, it could be whatever. They want to score, man. I'll tell you a quick anecdote. I played indoor soccer one time with Raul and a couple of his friends, man. And I had the great idea, because I wasn't in the great physical shape, to get on goal. This man was shooting as if he was shooting in a game.
Yeah.
I mean, I did get to stop one, and I will always hold that over his head. But I had my arm the size of a melon. I mean, it was awful. My legs were beat up. I mean, this guy, he was going to play to win.
He's a killer. That's all it is. I mean, it's so the Sounders, for the Sounders to be successful right now, they have to have a killer up top, and they're so fortunate to have it.
I love it, man. Well, let's talk a little bit about just real quick as we try to wrap it up. Is some of these young players and the free agency. We talk about resources. Seattle took a chance on guys that were free agents that are standouts right now, and that's huge props to who the Sounders are when it comes to scouting talent. Kellen Rose, a player that I wasn't high on when they picked him up. I just thought he was going to be an extra body. He was going to be somebody that was going to come in. He had a lot of versatility, playing a couple of positions. Jimmy, I was big on because I got to kind of see him play. I thought if he could stay healthy, he would be a great player. And Freddie, of course, coming back, just the story behind it at a league minimum. What can you say about these guys? And I mean, they all came to play, and they've all been producers. And Kellen Rose is a starter, basically. He's played just about every game and been great.
Yeah. Starting with Kellen, I think anytime you could go back to your hometown for the first time and play professionally is going to give you motivation. And he's somehow channeled this role of, and we spoke about it on the podcast this past week, is he's channeled this ability to be, when he came out of UCLA, he was a very fancy player. He was, 5'7", 140 pounds. And so he was a real number 10, and he liked tricks. He liked all this stuff. But when you come to Major League Soccer and you go to a place like New England, even for me as a center midfielder, the Sounders always brought in someone else to say, okay, he's better than him, we're going to play him. But somehow Kellen survived just like I did and has been able to, I think this is his 12th year in the league. And he's hung on to now say, hey, I can do the fancy stuff when I need to, but I'm a mature enough player to put in the work now. And he's done that. And I think that this system works perfectly for him. It doesn't demand too much defensively or too much thinking. He's basically able to just go out and chase the ball and apply pressure and really create turnovers. And you saw it last night with that finish, being in the right
Absolutely.
spot. For Freddie, same thing. I think Freddie's motivated by being back here in Seattle. His family's settled. He's probably motivated by the contract. If he does well, then they're going to sign him to a bigger contract. He's got to get plenty more goals under his belt, but that's only going to come with time. And he just needs moments on the field to really get back in that scoring rhythm. He saw it. He should have had a goal or two the other night.
Yes.
On any other night, he probably scores one of those chances and maybe gets 2 or 3. He's a streaky goal scorer. But he's, again, another mature type player. And then Jimmy Medranda, who I played with in Kansas City. I mean, every day this guy was working as hard as he could. He was starting. He was scoring goals from 30 yards out. He was such a good player. He can play in the back line. He can play as a midfielder. And I'm so happy now that he's got his injury gone, dealt with. He's fit. He's in a place that wants him, is most importantly. As a player, you play good when you go to a team that wants you. And you've seen by his play, as soon as he gets extremely match fit, he might be the starter on this team.
Oh, I agree. And that's a great luxury for Seattle. I mean, his services in this past game was great. The defensive role as well, holding Fafa was great. I mean, just the two-way player that he can be is extremely
He's good.
Big for this team, and it can continue to be. So that's huge. And I want to ask you in general about, I mean, I've never seen so many young players get so much play time. Atencio, Danny Leyva, Ethan is coming in as well. What are your thoughts on that and what Chad has been able to do in just getting better and better developing players?
Yeah, look, if you're good enough to play, it doesn't matter how old you are. I don't care if you're, 14. In Kansas City, we had a player, Busio, who's blowing up now, right? It's been a couple of years, but Busio would come into training sessions and be one of the best players in training. And, Sporting started to roll him out in games throughout that season and gain that experience. And if you can prove yourself, not with, Defiance and Academy, but if you can prove yourself day in, day out in training sessions with the first team, you're going to feel like you belong. And then if you get into a game, professional athletics it's make it or break it. Can you do it or can you not do it? Are you a practice player or can you perform in games also? And the Sounders have gotten, I wouldn't say lucky. They prepared these kids, but I think to have all of them at one time, I think that's a little bit lucky. To have a, 17, 18, 19-year-old kid have high quality production. And you're going to see over the next 3, 4, 5 years that these players are going to get better at soccer, but they're also going to get bigger in the gym. And they're going to be sellable assets in the next couple years if they can put on the weight. They've got the physical capabilities. They can run and they can perform in games now in Major League Soccer. Now can they take that next step and be a dominant midfielder? If they do that, then we're talking about some serious academy products for the next 5-10 years.
And how surprised have you been with Stephen Cleveland back there, been put in those huge shoes that is Stephen Fry and been able to perform? Obviously, he's not young, but he hasn't had that MLS experience either.
Yeah, he may look like he's 18, but he's already 27. So he's got training under his belt, and oftentimes for goalkeepers, it happens later than earlier, right? And goalkeepers tend to mature a bit later than field players. And he has no better coach in Major League Soccer than Tommy Dutra. Every person you've ever interviewed, probably I've ever talked to, says that Tommy's the best goalkeeper coach. And if you have that and you've got a mentor like Stephen Fry to look up to, you're in good hands. I think if things had gone differently and, the Sounders had leaked goals and the defense wasn't so strong, I think we might be having a different conversation. But as with everything, it goes with confidence. And if you find yourself only taking 2-3 set piece goals in 6, 7, 8 games, you're going to be confident. Sometimes it's all about confidence. And if he would have taken 4, 5, 6 goals every game, maybe he doesn't make the extra jump or come out for that ball, right? In the last couple games, that's a game-saving save. So sports are crazy and unpredictable, and I think that he is very lucky and very fortunate to be in the position that he is now, but he's also taking advantage of what he's been given.
We're about 30 minutes with Brad Evans. It's been fantastic. Don't forget to please follow us, Pulso Sports, Plataforma Latina as well. Follow our podcast. We're going to get ready to close this down here. Just a couple more questions, Brad. First of all, this team's doing so great, so well, and now you got Leagues Cup. How much effort and how much resources do you put on there? Because, we talked about, you said it earlier, the whole thing about being able to just prove yourself against Mexican teams is fantastic. Going against Guignac, going against Guzman, that's awesome. But thinking about league play, how do you manage that?
Yeah, it's tough. I think a lot will depend on where the Sounders are at in their season. Anytime, back when we used to play in Champions League and the tournament was at the middle of the year, you had to be really smart about, okay, we're in July. We have a couple friendlies at home against big clubs. Oftentimes we play, maybe Tottenham or Man United, right? And then you've got Champions League games, and maybe the team is, not doing so well. Maybe we're 500 or just above 500. And we know that to get into the playoffs, you have to have significant points. So sometimes you rest guys when you went down to Central America and you played your first team when you were playing in Seattle because you wanted to save the legs because the bigger vision is MLS Cup. I don't think that the Sounders are in a real position right now to possibly field a full strength lineup. If you risk right now injuring 1 or 2 high quality players, I'm not sure that this team can hang on. I think they're hanging on by a little bit of a thread right now. And we'll see when it gets to that point. At that point, do you get Nico back? Do you get Steph back? Do a couple other guys get fully 100% healthy? Then yes, we talk about, a full strength team and getting after it. But that's a decision that, internally these clubs make. Some teams at the beginning of the year say, we're going to put all of our money into Open Cup and we're going to go for it no matter what, right? The Sounders tend to put all their chips in one basket and go after all these competitions in the smartest way possible. So I think a lot will tell when we get to that point and kind of where we're at in the season, injuries, and all that stuff. So I think a lot we'll find out pretty shortly here.
Right. And a tough decision it will be, no doubt about it. A couple of quick ones, Brad, before we get to your projects that I do want to make sure to give you some time to talk about because I'm very intrigued. The audience is intrigued, so I really want to talk about it. But in your opinion, or if you had to guess, will Brian Smetzer be Coach of the Year this season? Because right now it is a slam dunk. It is LeBron James on a fast break type of slam dunk. But there's still some games to be played.
There's games to be played and anything can happen. But right now, he is the Coach of the Year for sure. If you can lead this team with its injuries to 13 unbeaten, you are absolutely no question coach of the year. Well, like you said, anything can happen from here to the end of the year. If you can continue, if there's only 3 or 4 losses this entire year, he'll win coach of the year no matter what happens. And those losses might come the last 4 games of the year, who knows? But if you have 5 or less losses, I think that he wins coach of the year. I don't see any other team playing like world beaters right now. So I don't know if there's another coach that has their team playing like true champions. So for me, absolutely, Schmetz is coach of the year.
Love it. We got Euro, Copa America coming up. England, Italy. My brain says Italy's been consistent except for the Spain game. They're the better team. But my gut, for some reason, says that England's going to pull it off at home and things are going to go their way. And VAR or no VAR, but I think things are going to go their way and they're going to win it. What does Brad think?
Yeah, I'm with you. I think my gut is telling me England, but my soccer brain is telling me Italy. Italy, when I watch them play right now, they look like a bunch of grown men that are seasoned veterans. They all look like 35 years old, and they're just there with the hard hats on, and they're there to do the work. Now, home field advantage for this one is going to be massive. That stadium is going to be rocking, but if any team can take that pressure, it's going to be Italy, right? They're going to defend like no other. Right, the other night defending even through overtime was a masterclass of defending, and it was fantastic to watch. And it looks like the Italy of old. They have that passion from the late '90s, early 2000s. I think they lost that a little bit and tried to get a little cute and fancy, and now it looks like they're just back to their defensive efforts. But there's a lot to be said about the England squad too. It's about time that an England squad looks like world beaters, and Kane looks fantastic. Little trickery sprinkled in here or there. Massive defenders. I want to say Italy. I'll say Italy. I'll go opposite of you. I'm gonna say Italy.
All right, I like it. And Copa America, Neymar, Lionel Messi. Argentina gets Colombia out in penalties. It hurts still, but I think Argentina might take it. Brazil are the favorites by far. Better Arsenal at home. Your thoughts?
Yeah, Steve and I talked about it also, is it's not the Brazil of old. This is a new age Brazil who are playing like just a beautiful brand of soccer, but in their own non-Brazilian way, it almost looks like. Neymar is incredible, but they have a lot of pieces that can hurt you, and they're playing like a team. But the heart and determination of Argentina right now, you can't mess with. You cannot shut down for 1 second. Messi is what he's been able to do on a consistent basis for so long. It looks like he's truly playing for Argentina right now. I don't think in years past he's really put his heart and soul into it. There's been a lot of controversy around him in Argentina and coaching and management, but celebrating with the coach and teammates on the sideline, and that shows a lot about the character of that team too. I'll say Brazil, but I wouldn't be surprised to see a moment or two of magic from Messi.
That's right. Jogo Bonito is gone, but Brazil is Brazil. Absolutely. And finally, Brad, I'd be crazy not to ask you about Gold Cup. Very simple, though. Mexico takes their A team. Might have a lot to do with Tata having the splinter of what just happened last game against Mexico and the United States. The U.S. goes a different approach. What are your thoughts on kind of the approach that Greg Berhalter took with these MLS players, understandably thinking of the future of his young players in Europe and things? But I just kind of want to know your take on it and how far can they get?
Yeah, I had this same experience when 2009, the U.S. was in Copa America, I think, and they took the A roster there, and then we were part of the B roster, and then a couple players sprinkled in to the Gold Cup. Nothing changes when it comes to mentality when you get into those camps. You are there to prove yourself, number one. You're there to play for, the Stars and Stripes and to play for that jersey, no matter who you play against. Yes, it's an A team. Tata's always going to bring an A team anywhere he goes, because that coach is ruthless. We've heard about stories in Atlanta from former MLS players about he wouldn't even give them a day's break. And so they'd have to go to the players union and say, hey, we need a day off. Tata's like, no, you don't. We're going to train twice a day for the whole preseason, right? And they turned out to be a fantastic team. So he knows what he's doing. And he knows that he can push players harder than they think that they can be pushed. So it's two different coaching mentalities. I think Greg is really concerned about qualifying for the World Cup and the World Cup qualifiers coming up. And he wants those players to be 1,000% fit and ready to go on guys that played a number of minutes at a young age in Europe. So yes, two different mindsets, but the mentality of the group doesn't change. I think the U.S. I still think they have a very good team, but they're going to be tested early on. I remember playing Haiti in 2015, maybe. I can't remember what year it was. And I played right back, and I've never played against a more athletic team than Haiti ever in my career. And it was just wave after wave. And the guys were playing in France. They were playing first, second division in France, so they weren't slouches. And this U.S. team they're gonna be up against it. And against teams like this in the group stage, you have to make a statement from game one.
Yep.
And man, it's gonna be a tough game against Haiti, but I would look for. It's gonna be tough for the U.S. to make the final. I think they'll do it. But an A team against Mexico, it's gonna be a pro Mexico crowd no matter where you play. It's a tough game. I remember playing Gold Cup final in New York, and there were 75,000 Mexican fans and maybe 10 or 15 U.S. fans, and they absolutely destroyed us. So it's a tough task, man.
I love it. Well, thanks, Brad, for being with us, man. Holding on 40 minutes straight. I get to check something off my bucket list, man, because I've been a fan of you since I've been, covering the squad because of our conversations. You are one of the most charismatic guys on the field. You were, on the training camp and on the field, you were great. Your soccer IQ, man. I'm happy everything you're doing. You obviously got a lot going on right now, and I'm interested on everything you're doing because you're going from not just being a broadcaster, but also an influencer with obviously this new website that you're putting up. And I just want you to talk about it.
Yeah, thank you for giving me the platform to speak about it. I took the job as brand ambassador for the Sounders last year and was able to do a ton in the community. Still continue to do that. When everything shut down, I shifted into TV and doing broadcasting, which has been super fun. I get to talk soccer with my friends, right? There's nothing better than that, and having an opinion online or on TV. I also have a coaching gig that I'm working on with a local high school, boys and girls soccer. That's been eye-opening to say the least. It's my first time coaching really soccer, which has been super fun. And then last year when I saw, kind of the world shut down just like everyone else, I wanted to create a platform that allowed athletes or musicians or any influencer to be able to auction off their memorabilia, jerseys, cleats, but also that athlete gets to choose where they want the money to be donated to. So they get to choose any nonprofit that they want the money to go to. So we've been working on this for over a year. We just launched about 3 weeks ago. It's called Contrib, CONTRIB. And you can go check it out. There's a couple items on there right now. Kellen Rose jersey from just a couple nights ago, the game-winning jersey, his first goal as a Sounder is
nice.
Up. The money's going to go towards Athlete Ally. He's chosen that nonprofit. Alex Roldan has a pair of cleats on there. That money's going to go towards the Ray Foundation, which is the Sounders charitable arm to help build mini pitches all throughout Seattle. So it's really cool because the players really power this, right? You get to auction off memorabilia while choosing a nonprofit that helps out. So hopefully you'll see more. We can get Raul on. We can get Nico on soon. Chad Marshall is going to put on a jersey yet tomorrow or maybe next week. I'll have another jersey going up soon. So we hope to get more nonprofits signed on that the players choose from. So we actually don't partner with the nonprofits. The players drive all of this. It's all their choice. So it's been super fun, and the reception from the athletes has been fantastic, from Seattle Sounders to the Seattle Reign. OL Reign now. We've raised almost $7,500 for different nonprofits throughout the area. So we just got to continue growing, and with the support of the community, I think we can do that.
Yeah, and you'll have the link on our description on YouTube as well as in Facebook, Plataforma Latina, Pulso Sports website as well. So make sure that you do that. I'm talk to maybe Yamar, some of the Javi, some of the Latinos, and tell them a little bit about it. See if we can get them on board.
Love it.
So thanks, man. I appreciate it. I commend you for everything you do with the community, man. Love seeing you out there. My kid is like, hey, man, I saw Brad. He's always so nice, man. I just love that you will just be real with everybody you see, man. And that's a huge attribute to anybody in your position, man. So I really appreciate you giving back and just being an overall good guy.
Yeah, thanks, bro. I appreciate it. It's been super fun, and I love connecting with the community. And soccer's that bridge, right? Soccer speaks. You don't have to talk. Everyone knows that the soccer ball speaks its own language, and I think we all know what that language is if we love soccer. So it's a great avenue. So anything you need in the future, you guys let me know. And this was super fun. Thank you.
No, thank you, man. I'm glad you said that because it won't be the last time I'll reach out and bug you, man. So appreciate that. Soccer is the global language said
That's
by
right.
Brad Evans himself, guys. Thank you so much. Nico, El Rolo del Noroeste, with you guys, bringing you this special segment about the Sounders, a little bit of everything with Mr. Brad Evans. So make sure you check it out, subscribe, like our page, like Plataforma Latina, check out our podcast, check out our website, pulsosports.com. Have a good one, everybody. Stay safe.